Bucs Nation, I'm Unger to the Max coming at you with tonight's episode of the SportsRoom TalkShow. It is round 2 of Browns-Eagles video collaboration. We did it with Brandon Lewis on Wednesday to preview this Week 6 matchup, but that wasn't enough. So we got Chip here from, remind me of your channel, it's AAT, right?
AAT Birds, all about the birds. Yep.
Okay. So I'm glad I found you, and did you grow up an Eagles fan, or how did you become a Philly fan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the Philadelphia area, so I've been an Eagles fan since I started being a football fan. Which
Okay.
a lot of heartbreak and a lot of very few highs and a lot of lows. But talking to a Cleveland Browns person, you get us.
Yeah. By the way, even though I'm a Browns content creator and Browns fan, I do have that little piece of Eagles memorabilia right there. I've also got that, so don't worry. By the way, I love your helmets. I think they're one of the best in the league. Just that simple wing on the side of the helmet. Oh, it looks so good. But you guys are coming off your bye week. Prior to that, you got whooped by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Sure did, yeah.
Down in Tampa against our former quarterback. Of course, he's finding success, Baker Mayfield. Whereas us, well, we got shellacked by Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders last week, 34-13. And it's interesting. A lot of the storylines for both our teams are really revolving around the quarterbacks. We know the story with Deshaun Watson, how poorly he's played this season. But you look at like Jalen Hurts, will the real Jalen Hurts please stand up? Like, which version of Jalen Hurts is the real one? Is it the one from 2022 that arguably should have won the MVP and led the Eagles to within a few minutes of winning Super Bowl 57? Or was it last year's version of Jalen Hurts? What's your take on that?
So if you are a Philadelphia podcaster and you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, first thing you have to do is understand that you are always going to be talking about the quarterback position. Whether that is the starting quarterback position, whether that is the backup quarterback position, whether that is the backup should be the starter quarterback position. We talk about quarterbacks all the time in Philadelphia. We live, eat, sleep, breathe quarterback talk. With
so
that being
we
said,
here in Cleveland, trust me,
I was going to say, with that being said, the parody and the comparisons are Cleveland, and it's absurd on how many quarterbacks you guys have had in your franchise. Same thing like with the Commanders. It's comical when you see the photos of all the quarterbacks' jerseys. With the Jalen Hurts thing, I think it goes to a couple of issues. First off, he has had a multitude of offensive coordinators throughout his playing career who have completely changed up things that he has done. So he started off by being a running quarterback. Then they're trying to make him into a passing quarterback. Now they're trying to do a little bit of both. Last season, the biggest issue that Jalen Hurts had was that he was expected to be 90 to 95% of the offense. And we said on our channel back in September that was not sustainable, that he throwing the ball and being our lead runner every single play was a problem. And by the end of the year, you saw him start to phase out, the exhaustion kicking in. So what do? They go out and get Saquon Barkley. Now you're starting to see them not utilizing Saquon Barkley nearly enough. Because they're maybe afraid of overusing him. Maybe his, Jalen Hurts' his receivers are out. So let's not use Saquon. There has been no cohesiveness in this offense. And I think a lot of that is falling onto Nick Sirianni. It's starting to expose him, considering you had, like you mentioned, a Super Bowl run, but now those offensive and defense coordinators are gone. And Sirianni has been shown that he's not the coach that everybody kind of hoped he was. And again, he's a Super Bowl appearing coach. He's not getting fired this season, but he's definitely on a watch list for listen, if this team continues to struggle like they've had over the last calendar year, at all phases of the game, and they continue to regress, I think you can start to hear conversation a lot like they did with Doug, where Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning coach. The regression, the refusing to make changes, they got rid of Doug. Nick Sirianni is not a Super Bowl winning coach. He's a Super Bowl appearing coach. There is a difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you. By the way, as a Browns fan and as a general NFL fan, thank you for taking down the evil empire in Super Bowl 52. I greatly appreciate that. I've told Eagles fans that when I've seen them at preseason games or when you guys came here in 2020, which that was the first time we had beaten you in a while, because prior to that, we had lost like 4 or 5 straight against you. And we haven't beaten you in Philly in like 30 years. It's kind of crazy how much you've dominated this series against us. I saw your tweet about the game in 2012. I remember the game in 2016, which was Carson Wentz's rookie debut.
Yes, it was.
We played you, I forget what season it was, but we played you in the 3rd preseason game, and then we played you a couple weeks later in week 1. So we played you a lot early in the season, it does seem like, and this is no exception. I would say week 6 is still kind of early in the season. But, you were talking about that relationship between Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. I feel like that's been the big story for Philly in the early part of the season. Like, are they on the same page? Are they not? Like, my buddy Brandon was telling me that Jalen Hurts, was saying he's in favor of Sirianni now, coming off of all that during the bye week, they, aired out all their differences, and now they're on the same page. And my question to him, and I'll pose the same question to you, is do you think he was just kind of saying that to try and get the media off of his back? Or do you feel like, I think this was in a press conference he was saying it. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Jalen Hurts, no matter what, he is a consummate professional. He's a coach's son, so he's not going to publicly throw a coach under the bus.
Right.
He's not going to air grievances with the media. He's not going to say that he cleared grievances in the media. Jalen Hurts is going to be all about business. Now, behind closed doors, who knows what they're handling? But Jalen Hurts was raised a very respectful coach's son. He knows that Nick Sirianni is the coach of the team. Yes, it's become very obvious that the two are not on the same page. But Nick Sirianni isn't the one calling the plays. Kellen Moore is the one calling the plays. So for there to be any issue between the two means that Sirianni is overstepping his role, which is really just a general manager, kind of game manager, decision maker. He's not the one calling the plays, but you've definitely seen compared to week 1, where we had an insane amount of pre-snap motion to what we're using now, which is almost none. Sirianni has definitely had more of a hand in the offense, which is causing problems because the offense, once it got rid of the preseason jitters in week 1 and quarter 1, really started clicking against Green Bay. Now, I won't say that it was a dominant win because, again, the Eagles have not really had a dominant win in the last calendar year. But I'm not buying anything into the public issues between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. If there are issues, Jalen Hurts is handling it quietly, or he is, as a coach's son, shutting up and doing what he's told, and then he'll handle it later, which both have goods, both have bads, but we can't have, and again, Philadelphia is the worst when it comes to some of our media. We can't have a public airing of the grievances. That's not what's going to work for us here, because when this team struggles, every single week there is a locker room leak. We saw it at the end of Doug's tenure. And we can't have that again. So if that thing starts to happen, I expect one of the big wigs would step in and shut it down.
probably Jeffrey Lurie if I had to guess. Um, but I mean, I flip it over to my team. We're 1-4. We haven't scored 20 points in any of our games yet this season. Um, Deshaun Watson has been a complete and total failure. Houston has won that trade in a complete and total landslide, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Um, we all, most Cleveland fans thought, oh, Deshaun can get back to his Houston version of himself. I'm like, what evidence do we have that he can? And they always point to the same handful of games. The second half against Baltimore, the game against Tennessee and the game against Arizona. I'm like, okay, you have credit with the second half against Baltimore because it's the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and all that. I get it. But then you're trying to present me a case with the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. I get it. The Cardinals just beat the 49ers last week. The Cardinals might be a bit more of a pesky team. But when we beat them, they were not a very good team. I think they were starting a rookie quarterback. Not impressed. And Tennessee, when we played them, they weren't a very good team anyway. So I'm like, whatever. And I think about this for a minute. We got to the playoffs not because of Deshaun Watson, but because of PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson Robinson, and Joe freaking Flacco. Think about that. Like, I was not on the Joe Flacco hype train. I just couldn't get myself to root for a guy that played for the Baltimore Ravens. Um, I feel like you would be the same way if, like, a quarterback from the Dallas Cowboys came over and started playing for the Eagles for whatever reason. You'd be like, no, I can't root for him. Am I correct in that?
I mean, we have experimented in the past with trying to bring in Dallas Cowboys. People like, we'll bring in Saquon Barkley. He's an elite level talent. We'll bring in, we're trying Jahan Dotson out. He's not an elite level talent, but we're giving him a whirl. No, Cowboys are a no-no for you, for us. But the thing that I think you need to really accept is, if not for the humongous trade and the humongous contract for Deshaun Watson, he would not be your starting quarterback. You guys are kind of handcuffed and can't get out of it. He has not played any kind of level of well. The team does not play for him. The coaches don't enjoy coaching him, as it's evident by him literally walking off the field rather than going forward on fourth down. Deshaun Watson is a complete bust and has been a bust since he left Houston. And you guys are kind of stuck footing the bill. All I've ever done in my podcasting career is make jokes about Deshaun Watson. I personally don't think that he should still be in the NFL. I think you guys have a pretty decent roster when it comes to your running backs, when it comes to some of your wide receivers. You've got a couple of pretty good defensive players. Like, you could be doing a lot more, but your quarterback is holding you back.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. When we made the trade for Deshaun, I was like, okay. Like, I wasn't totally in favor of it. I wasn't totally against it either, partially because of his checkered past. But I'm like, okay, maybe he can rediscover his Houston form. And obviously that hasn't happened. Personally, I'd like to see Jameis Winston start on Sunday in Philadelphia against the Eagles, but that's not going to happen because I feel
there's too much money wrapped up with Deshaun Watson. Jameis Winston has a better opportunity to have the team play for him. As you mentioned, the slew of quarterbacks that were able to lead this team to wins last year. Deshaun Watson isn't one of them.
No, think about this. It was PJ Walker that beat the San Francisco 49ers last year. It was PJ Walker that won that crazy game against the Indianapolis Colts. I know Deshaun started that game, but PJ Walker had to come in and finish it because Deshaun, suffered an injury. Dorian Thompson Robinson beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we all know what happened with Joe Flacco. He comes in, beats the Jaguars, Bears, Texans, Jets, gets the Browns into the playoffs. I know we
Mhm.
lay the dud against the Houston Texans, whatever. But still, like, I did not mention Deshaun Watson in that sentence. Like, and
It's like, and this is kind of where the national media has now picked up on. If it was not for the contract, if it was anywhere else, Deshaun Watson would not be the starting quarterback. But for the contract, but for what's tied to him, but for all the success that CJ Stroud is having in Houston, like there's a constant of we have to somehow show that we've won this trade a little bit, even though they're not going to.
no. Um, and when, when once Kevin Stefanski in his press conference said, yes, Deshaun is our starting quarterback, I'm like, okay, this isn't coming from him. Because I bet he wants to go to Jameis Winston. But I feel like this is the Haslams, Jimmy and D. Like, because it's like they're the ones that wanted to A, get rid of Baker Mayfield, and B, trade for Deshaun Watson. And so it's like, we got to keep him out on the field because right now, in my opinion, they have so much egg on their face. You can't even see their actual face right now. It's kind of
No, and like you said, I mean, it really they have to show that they won something. They're not. They did not win this.
no.
And but they've got too much money intertwined with this guy. They have to get as much bang for their buck as possible. Jose, you checking in from my network. What's going on, buddy?
Um, appreciate you, Jose. Also, it's like what sucks more about it is like, and you got a firsthand look at this. Baker Mayfield is playing well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes, we are aware.
Um, by the way, send our thoughts and prayers to the Tampa area who have recently experienced those two hurricanes. Um, hope you guys get better soon. But it's like I personally did not want to get rid of Baker Mayfield. My biggest issue, I had two major issues with him though. One, he was shooting too many of those commercials for Progressive, like the at home with Baker Mayfield commercials. And I'm like, dude, focus more on the football, not the Progressive commercials. But my bigger issue with him was once he suffered that shoulder injury, um, I think he just tried to be too much of a Cleveland tough guy where, like, Cleveland has always been perceived as like a blue collar working man type of town. And he wanted to try and be like, see, Cleveland fans, I'm just like you. I'm a tough guy. I can ride it out. I'm going to continue playing. And I'm thinking, no, you are clearly not healthy. You need to just take the rest of the year off, get the surgery, come back next season, and let's see what we've got.
I mean, Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback you've had in the past 15 years. So, I mean, it was I guess time for him to leave Cleveland. I mean, the Eagles have done the same thing when we got rid of Donovan McNabb. They got rid of Carson Wentz. I mean, it's just the natural ebb and flow of the game, and good on Baker for finding success. I never had any issues with the guy. You guys were ready for a retool, and you put all of your eggs in the Deshaun Watson basket, and here's your Easter.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but at least you guys know what a freaking Super Bowl is. Like
We do. We do.
Us Browns fans, we continue to make the joke. Hey, Dad, what's a Super Bowl? I don't know, son. We're Browns fans. Um, but with us this season, I'm like, before the season, I thought, okay, we have a good team. Maybe we can sneak in as a wild card at like, I don't know, 10-7, 9-8, something like that. And then after the Dallas game and the Giants game, I'm like, okay, probably 6-11 is more reasonable. Given the way we got shellacked last week against the Commanders, and given the fact that your Eagles are a 9.5 point favorite going into this game on Sunday, I'm like, we might end up going 3-14 this season.
For you guys specifically, your season changes whenever you decide to bench Deshaun Watson. That's when you guys make your run. Until that happens, yeah, you're going to be on the losing side of things. However, I will also say that my Eagles have been wildly inconsistent over the last year. Our defense is a joke right now, playing 15 yards off the ball, getting absolutely no pressure. So even Deshaun Watson can look really good on Sunday, because as long as your offensive line can hold back our front four, he should be able to pick apart our defense, unless the Eagles made adjustments during the bye week, which is the goal, which is the hope. But I mean, you still have an insane edge rusher in Myles Garrett, one of the top defensive players in the NFL, against a Philadelphia Eagles offensive line who has yet to find its new identity since Jason Kelce has retired. So I think that while I understand the Eagles being 9-point favorites, and in reality for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a must-win game. I debated with my co-host Johnny on our show on Wednesday night, and this is a must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles, because this Cleveland Browns team, as it stands right now, is a bad football team. And when you come across a bad football team and you have a good football team, you need to stomp on them a little bit. Sorry, you just do. So if the Eagles decide to not stomp on the Cleveland Browns, I think that says more about the Eagles' chances than it does Cleveland's chances.
Oh, no need to apologize. I can't even deny it. We are a bad football team. Like, is it bad of me to say that I'm already looking forward to what quarterback we drafted next year's draft? Like,
because the quarterback doesn't solve all your problems. One of the best drafts you ever had is when you took Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
In order to be successful in this league, you have to build along the lines, and that's a mistake that Cleveland always makes.
Yeah. I mean, we were the team you traded with to get the Carson Wentz in the first place.
Sure was.
Now, would Carson Wentz have worked in Cleveland? I don't know. But
no, because he had no offensive line.
So, I mean, he did work in Philly for the time he was there, but then he got injured, and of course, we all know what happened. Nick Foles comes in and pulls off one of the greatest runs in NFL history and caps it off with arguably the best play in Super Bowl history, Philly special.
Mm-hmm.
I love going back and watching that play. It was just incredible. And we've seen a bunch of teams copy it since then. It's kind of funny. But I want to agree with you that Myles Garrett is still one of the top defensive linemen. But it's like, when I watch the games, I feel like he's not really having that same level of impact that he used to have. I look at him, I'm like, are you going to get any type of pressure on Dak Prescott, on Daniel Jones, on Jaden Daniels? Like, when we played the Giants, it looked like Daniel Jones could sit back, make himself a pina colada, and hang out on the beach. And, like, Jaden Daniels he had to escape the pocket a couple times, but what did he do? Oh, there's Terry McLaurin wide open for a huge passing play. And I just pictured the fact that A.J. Brown's going to be back this week. You got Devontae Smith. You got Dallas Goedert. I suspect you're probably going to use Saquon in the passing game. So even if we do get pressure on Jalen Hurts, he's just going to look down the field and go, oh, there's Devontae. Oh, there's A.J. Brown.
I mean, that's the hope. That's the goal. But you've got AJ coming off of some sort of lower body injury, so you got to hope that he's all the way fully healthy, which I think he is. Devontae coming off of a very dirty concussion hit. Lane coming off of a ugly concussion that was causing vomiting and things like that. So, who knows how long these guys stay in the game. The issue comes in is who is calling the plays. If Kellen Moore is calling the plays in his offensive style, we should be able to march the ball up and down the field with you guys. Nice balance, motion. I mean, you've got some defensive players for sure. You've got, like we said, you got Myles Garrett. You've got pretty dang good quarterback in Denzel Ward.
If he can stay healthy, that's
Right.
the
You've got
problem.
the Rodney McLeod revenge game. I mean, you've got some guys. The thing is, the Eagles guys are better. So there
Yeah.
is no excuse for the Eagles to lose this game unless Nick Sirianni decides to start micromanaging both Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio.
So here's you could, to flip this over to the Browns super quick, because you're talking about Sirianni kind of stepping in and micromanaging the offense and stuff. It's been Kevin Stefanski calling the plays for us this season. And I'm like, well, what's the point of having Ken Dorsey there as our offensive coordinator if Stefanski's the one calling the plays? Now, I get it. Like, there's a reason Buffalo fired Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator. I understand that. But it's like, is it just that Deshaun Watson doesn't fit in Kevin Stefanski's style of offense? Because when I watch them, it doesn't even look like they're in the same chapter, let alone the same book. At least when I watch Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni or Kellen Moore, whoever, it looks like they're trying to get on the same page. At least from an outsider's.
Yeah, I mean, but it's too many voices, and with Jason Kelce retiring, now it's on Jalen Hurts to call the protection coverages and the things like that. It's not something he's really done before. Never at the NFL level because he always had Jason Kelce, and because of that, we're snapping the ball a little bit later. We're making him think a little too much. And Jalen Hurts has led the NFL in turnovers since 2023. It's got to get cleaned up. The Eagles have to win the turnover battle. They've got to push the Cleveland Browns around. They've got to make sure that they double team Myles Garrett to not make him a non-factor, because the worst thing that can happen is Myles Garrett becomes the disruptive force that he normally is. And therefore, Jalen Hurts is forced to run to the side that he can't throw from. And, there's so much tape now on Jalen Hurts that you need a different voice kind of helping him out. And that's what Kellen Moore was supposed to be. And you've just seen a regression over the last couple of years. I'm not saying get rid of Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying fire Nick Sirianni. I'm not being reactionary. I'm simply making the observation of there has been very clear regression over these last couple of years.
See, and what I can kind of make the same story here in Cleveland, because I'm not suggesting Kevin Stefanski should be fired, and I'm not saying he should be on the hot seat.
No, Deshaun Watson should get the kick.
Exactly. But my fear is that even though Stefanski has gotten us to the playoffs twice, I know he wasn't there for the wild card win in Pittsburgh, but it still counts. I don't care what anybody says. He's a two-time coach of the year. He got us to the playoffs last season with Joe freaking Flacco. And
listen, Joe Flacco's looking good in Indianapolis. That dude has found the fountain of youth.
Right. My point, though, is I'm worried that, if this season ends up going sideways, which it looks like it's going to, instead of making the right decision and getting rid of Deshaun Watson, even though it would strap an anchor to us in terms of dead cap, I get that. I worry that...
I mean, look, the Eagles are still paying a dead cap on Carson Wentz, so it's not always about the money. It's about the product you're putting on the field.
Right. No, I understand that. But my concern is the Haslams would be like, okay, Kevin, we gave you 3 years to try and work it out with Deshaun Watson, and you haven't done that. So my concern is, again, I'm not saying Stefanski should get fired. I'm not even saying he should be on the hot seat. But I do have that concern that once the season goes south, that he will be put on the hot seat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Cleveland Browns head coach. They're always on the hot seat.
Dude, you don't even know the half of it. I'm like we had in 2014, I think it was, Mike Penn as our head coach, Kyle Shanahan as our offensive coordinator. I'm like, why didn't we keep those two? I get it. We like had a collapse at the end, but that was because again, the Haslams stuck their nose into the
Mhm.
into their business and said, "No, we want to see Johnny freaking Manziel." I'm like, "No,
I,
why are we trying to change things?" Like,
because in Cleveland and in Philadelphia, it's all about the quarterback. And, you let a guy like, Nick Chubb move on. You let guys like Amari Cooper rot. Amari Cooper should be putting up humongous numbers if you had a quarterback that got him the ball.
yeah,
There was a time where you guys had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And all we did was talk about the quarterback.
exactly. Um, and now Kareem Hunt's in Kansas City. But like, I like our receiving core: Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. Last season with Joe Flacco, David Njoku like turned into the player I thought he could be. And I'm
Yep.
like, why can't that carry over into this season? Oh wait, it's because of Deshaun Watson. See, even with this game preview, it's all centering around the quarterback. Like,
Always. Our
yeah,
two franchises, always.
yeah. At least you guys don't cycle through head coaches and general managers like we do. Like,
I
how
know
did
Howie Roseman knows where all the bones are buried in Lincoln Financial Field. He's not going anywhere.
no? I mean, and you know what I find funny about Howie Roseman? He went to Florida, didn't he, for college, something like that.
Oh, I have no idea. I just know that we did on our network an entire show about firing the guy and replacing the guy, and now we all don't want him to ever leave us.
And yet he's drafting all these Georgia guys for your defense. Jalen Carter, Nolan
Mm-hmm.
Smith, just to name a couple. And then I heard that your rookie, Cooper DeJean, is probably going to start this week.
He is starting this week, which is good because Avonte Maddox, he was known for being a nickel corner, and he has looked every bit as awful as his age is dictating him to be. So yeah, give the kid a shot because it can't get any worse.
And you're also starting your first. I think he was your first round pick, the kid out of Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell.
He's been starting because James Bradbury is abysmal, absolutely abysmal.
Okay,
You
I
guys want
thought.
him? We'll give him for a bag of peanuts.
um, no thanks. I mean, then again, I have questions about our secondary. I'm like, okay, is our secondary actually going to be healthy this week? Because I don't know week to week. Is Denzel Ward going to be healthy? Is Grant Delpit going to be healthy? Is Greg Newsome going to be healthy? And then Martin Emerson got burned a couple weeks ago by Malik freaking Neighbors. Rodney McLeod, great. He's playing a revenge game against Philly. Uh, uh, like the only reliable guy I can think of on our defense right now is Jeremiah Wusa-Koromoa. Like I can't even rely on our main guy, Myles Garrett. I don't feel like I can. Because
Here's the only thing that I will say, and Eagles had a very, very early bye week, which doesn't say a lot for the rest of our season. It's kind of concerning, but here's what I will say. I am glad that this is not a primetime game. If we are going to sit around and lick our wounds, I'd like to do it at the 1 o'clock spot and be done with it and not in front of a national audience. And this is not an exciting matchup for the NFL. This is not an exciting matchup for literally anybody. These are two bad football teams. One who is bad because they're playing bad, one who is bad because their quarterback is bad.
yeah, um, and like I said, you guys are favored by 9.5. Last time we played you was here in Cleveland back in 2020. We snapped our 5-game losing streak against you. I was at that game actually here in Cleveland. I had never seen the Eagles in person, so I wanted to check you guys off the list. And again, like I said, it was so cool seeing the that winged helmet in person. Like, I
Mhm.
love that helmet. But it's crazy how different these two teams are from that last matchup. Like, Carson Wentz was your starting quarterback in that game. I don't
Right.
think Sirianni was your head coach in 2020. I think it was still Doug, if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
Doug.
Okay. Um, Baker Mayfield, I think, yeah, Baker Mayfield was our starting quarterback. Like, it's crazy how different our teams are from that matchup, honestly.
I mean, that's what the NFL is. I mean, it's crazy how different the Eagles are from last year while they're still exactly the same. It's crazy how different the Eagles are from 2 years ago when they appeared in the Super Bowl. I mean, this is just a team that is constantly changing, but not ever doing enough to make noticeable change. So, like I said, I mean, this is going to be a matchup. It's going to be an interesting matchup. It's a very high stakes matchup for both of our programs. Um, but if the Eagles don't come away with a W, then it's going to be a very long season in Philadelphia of people talking and leaking information out there.
Yeah. Surprisingly, according to the football database, we lead the overall series 32-17. Um, and like I said, prior to 2020, we hadn't won a game against you, and our last win against you was 1994. That was also the last time we won a game in Philadelphia. So,
Yeah, I mean,
not
you got two historic franchises. I'm not surprised that it's a long tradition of games.
yeah. Um, as it is a bit surprising considering we basically just came back in 1999. You know, because Modell moved the team to Baltimore and became the Ravens. Browns fans are still mad about that. Um, that's why the Ravens are my most hated team in the division. I have no hatred towards the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cincinnati Bengals. I know most Browns fans are like find that ridiculous, but it's whatever. Whereas I know for Eagles fans, you guys hate the Commanders, you guys
Now,
hate the
we hate
Giants,
everybody in our division.
but your hatred for the Cowboys, that's at a different level. Like, you freaking threw snowballs at Santa.
All right, all right. You're spending a lot of time as a Cleveland friend in the past here. We got a matchup on Sunday. We're focused on one thing and one thing only: is winning a game. That's what we're doing.
Yes, which I think you're going to win this game pretty handily against us. I think we go 0-4 against the NFC East this season. I think you guys finish the sweep. Um, I got you winning 37 to 10, honestly. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is a lot closer because of how bad the Eagles have been playing. I think it's going to be 21-17. Eagles will win, but I do have it being a lot closer just because we don't seem to know who we are yet as a team.
yeah. Um, and even though we're not making a bet, what I might do is in the post game show, if I do one, I can do the Eagles fight song because, and just acknowledge you because I'm sure I almost feel 100% sure we're going to lose this game because I haven't seen anything in the past couple weeks that gives me confidence to say, yep, we can go into Philly and beat the Eagles. No.
Yeah,
So,
I'm hopeful that the Eagles do what they need to do. Um, again, this should not be as close of a game, but it's also the NFL, so who knows?
right. So, because I feel like A.J. Brown, Devontae, like Saquon, they're all looking at the Browns offense or Browns defense going, oh, I get to play against them. When do I hit the field? A.J. Brown's probably going to go for, I don't know, 2 touchdowns and I'll say 320. I wouldn't be
I,
surprised.
listen, I'll be very happy with that stat line. Very happy with that stat line. I'll be happy if the Eagles win the turnover battle. I'm going to go small victories here. I'll be happy if the Eagles win the turnover battle
Fair enough.
because they don't do that.
Fair enough. Well, you got anything else?
Nah, man, I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you linking up with me and helping me continue my quest to do a video collab for every game on the Browns schedule. Bengals, you're on deck. So, Chip, I appreciate you. I will make sure to put your channel link in the description below. So everybody go subscribe to his channel. And if you haven't subscribed to Hunger to the Max and you're watching, what the heck are you doing? Come over and subscribe. So it's the Browns taking on the Eagles Sunday at 1 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Best of luck to you, my friend.
Yes, same to you. Go Birds.